Welcome to the shop. Today we're going to be working outside on the vehicle to install a new dash cam. So let's look what's in the box. I'm going to be working with the Viofo A139 Pro 2-channel dash cam. This will have a front 4K camera and a rear, I think, 1085. I'm also going to be installing a hardware kit. And this will be useful for being able to take pictures, time-lapse, when the vehicle is standing still. It's got settings for 12 and 24 volt systems. The top line here shows your cutoff voltage, so that if your battery drains down to say 12 volts, this will shut off. For the hardwired system, we're going to need two connectors like this. I'll leave links in the description so you can see it. This is the camera that we'll be using. Some settings here. This is your Bluetooth connection, speaker. This would be for emergency recording. If you're in an accident, you want to save. Make sure you save your clip. You can just press that. If you're driving down the road and like the scenery and want to record that, you can just hit the record button. Some 3M tape on there. So in the box, there's a pack of directions, which I've left upstairs. And there's also two of these static shields. The directions are awful on how to install this, so I'm going to try to walk you through that. There's also some customer service information and some tips. You got your 12 volt power connection here, which we will not be using. There's a trim tool for helping you to do an install. USB to Type-C connector. This would be the rear camera. This would be your cable to run to the rear camera. There is a small polarized lens that you can add to your camera, as well as sticky mounts. And this is your USB card reader. You'll need to get a small card. I'm going to use a 64. You can use over 200 size cards, but this will go into your slot for the card. Press that in with your thumb nail and format your card to according to the directions. I've already formatted my card since it's already been used, so I think we should be good to go. To begin the setup process, you'll want to use a cigarette lighter adapter and start your vehicle to turn the camera on. Have the app downloaded on your phone so you can see what your image is going to be, and then locate your camera at a place you think will be best for your particular vehicle. Once you do that,
video protected.
So it just recorded a clip because it's sensitive. Anyway, you're going to clean the area thoroughly with alcohol, and then we're going to use one of the pressure sensitive strips and apply that. We'll have to wet the area and squeegee it out, and then we'll be able to attach the 3M to that sticky substance. So this piece of plastic has two sides to it. The one side says to peel first. So that would be this. And the other sticker says peel second, so I don't know. Seems okay. So there's the first side. We can peel that off and then put, oops, sorry. Put some water up here. Add some more. And then use this little squeegee. Just using a credit card to push out that water. So I'm going to get a dry cloth, dry that off before I peel the second piece of plastic off. And I can check for any air bubbles, hopefully. Now we can take our 3M peel that off. Give that a few seconds of pressure. We're done. Well, that was a total fail. You can see I mounted the camera up near the top of this, and as soon as I took my hands off, it basically just peeled right off. So I've installed new double stick tape, and I'm just going to mount that the way I had it before, right here. So I think this will be a much more secure way. You won't have to worry about it falling off. Now we can get to running our wires. So from the camera, I'll be running my power wire across the top of the frame, and for the rear camera, the same way. I take the wire across the top and in back of the A-pillar here. I'm going to pull this out to run the wires behind the airbag. Here you can see the wires running across the top to the A-pillar, and with this pulled away, the wires can run in back of the airbag. And so I'll pull all these wires through and then run them down here along the side. So the rear camera wire will continue to run along the headliner here. Meanwhile, our power connection will run on back of this plate, and we'll take that off. This will give us room to coil the wire. Now we'll have to go underneath and figure out our power connections. So up under the driver's side is the fuse panel, and what we need to do is find connections for the yellow accessory cord, which will activate the camera when the ignition's turned on. The battery will go to a constant 12-volt source, so we can have monitoring when the engine is off. And we have a ground point, which we will find under this panel. So to know where to connect things, I was looking on this diagram, and it shows you the different fuses. And there's one for the door or the horn, and we can connect our accessory to one of those points, and then we'll find another place that has constant 12 volts. I also have a diagram here that showed what each went to, like the tail light is the side light, license plate, and fog light. So we might look up tail as an example. Here's tail. That's a 10 amp. If we could find that, we could probably hook into that for the accessory. So with my probe and with the engine off, this is the tail light, and you can see there's no voltage to it because the engine is off. These are other ones. So let's test that with the engine on. The sixth one down, 10 amp, is the hazard light. So that's the one we're going to use for our accessory. So we want to double check here, find out which is the hot side. And so our 12 volt is on the outside. So to plug in our fuse, the hot is on the outside. And it'll go through the fuse to the connection. So that'll go in this way. Now we'll turn off the engine and find a constant 12 volt. So looking at fuses along this side, we have a 20 amp here. So we can use that. Again, rechecking, I want to make sure I know which side is 12 volt. So that will be on the inside. And we want the voltage to go from here through the fuse. So the hot side is up here. Now we can make our connections. So our first connection will be to the battery for constant power. Second connection will be to the accessory. I don't really like these crimping type cords. But that's what they sent. They can slip out, so you have to be careful. Now we'll remove this panel to do our ground. It's a little thumb screw here, hand screw. Get that loose. Pull this forward, and this will slide down to expose this screw. This is a 10mm screw. Just loosen that. Put a ground wire behind it. Tighten it up. And then we can take this bundle of wires and tie it up to that side panel. Secure it. And then put our pieces of molding back in place. For removing this panel, you do pull down on it. That releases from the nut that's here. Slide that up in place. Put our nut back on here, and then we'll put this piece of trim back. A little hard to see, but there are 3 little pins to pull. And it'd be helpful to have a tool like this to do that. You need to pull this liner down in order to run this wire across here and up to this point, so we can go through here and then behind this panel. If you wedge down this corner just a little bit, you'll be able to pull this down and bring your wire up through, so you'll be ready to get it to this point. I don't know what's going on here. There's a slight hole. I'm going to have to, I think, cut an opening so I can get in there with the wires. I think if I can cut up here just a little bit, I might be okay. Gain access. So what I'm going to do is work this stick. It's a little piece of rattan. So I'll work that through and be able to tape my wire to it and pull it through. Okay, now we just gotta put those back, run the wire up through here. Since this rab has a backup camera, I'm going to mount my camera next to it And first, I'll clean that glass with a little bit of alcohol. Give that a bit of a push. I can turn the camera to face out. And now I'll go check the phone app and see what kind of images I'm getting. One thing I would recommend is that before you put this panel back on, just kind of do a test fit. Make sure your camera is moved over far enough. Figure that out before you tape it to the window. Don't make the same mistake I made. Okay, all hooked up using the phone on the dash just to see what's going on. Right now we have the rear camera being displayed. We're going to switch over here to front camera. In your settings, you'll be able to do your formatting of the SD card if you haven't already done that. There's information on how to set your parking timer. When I went into the date and day format, it gives you 3 options, but it doesn't give you any option to actually put in a day or year. So I'm not sure how that works. So you might want to read your directions and play around with that for a while. This actually took me most of the afternoon to complete. Of course, it takes a little longer if you're filming. Just keep that in mind. Well, thanks for hanging with me today as I did a camera install on my 2020 RAV4. If you've enjoyed the video or perhaps thought you learned something, I'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. And if you want to be notified of my next video, hit that bell button. And if you want to subscribe, I'd always appreciate that too. Again, thanks for watching.